Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's live stream. I'm Ajahn Sona, and let's proceed with the first question, Pia.
Ajahn, our first question today is from the live stream from Gabby in Germany. Dear Ajahn, are hiri ottappa wholesome states of mind? I find shame is very unpleasant. Please explain how one can work with shame without getting lost in feelings of guilt.
Hiri ottappa, who, for those, and many will be unfamiliar with these Pali terms, sometimes translated as fear and shame. But really what they are is just a wise conscience. What are you afraid of? And why would the Buddha promote fear? What he's promoting is a kind of wholesome caution in regard to unwholesome activities. You should have a high concern for your own well-being in the present and in the future. And the idea of shame is a sense of concern for the opinion of the wise. So if you're studying English or something like this, or a language at university, at the literature level, you will be asked to submit essays and opinions about works of literature, maybe works of art, and you will want good feedback from your teacher, your professor. So you will be concerned with their opinion of your work. And that's why you're there, actually, to learn. And you want to improve and get better. So you do have an appropriate concern for the opinion of those who are experts in any field. If you're a musician, you want good feedback from those who have good taste in music, etc. So you want feedback. Now, people who don't want feedback, who don't have regard for the opinion of people who have expertise in certain areas, that's the way to be a loser in this game of life. So we're actually very concerned with the opinion of people who have competence in the field. And in particular the Buddhist field, it's to do with virtue and concentration and wisdom. Because we're very interested in our own well-being. We're attempting to move towards enlightenment, which is another word for well-being and happiness. Understanding. So we have high regard for the opinion of those who are accomplished in this area. So that's what is meant by shame. It just means that you have regard for the opinion of the wise. And the fear is wholesome concern for your own well-being. You don't do stupid things. You don't go too close to the edge of that cliff to look over, because maybe you're confident about your balance, but you don't know whether the edge of the cliff might be crumbly. So wise people don't go too close to the edge. They don't do things where they might injure themselves, etc. So this is what is meant by hiri ottappa, the trouble in the world. So hiri ottappa are called the guardians of the world, lokapala. Loka is the world, pala is the guardian. And so when those two states are not developed in a society, you will find it degenerates into chaos, into primitive conditions, whether nobody has a moral conscience and any regard for the opinion of the wise, and they have no personal concern for their own safety and well-being. You will find short life, all kinds of self-injury and the injury of others, and no regard, injury both physically and emotionally. So this is what is meant. But now, what about regarding the past? So we perhaps have done foolish things in the past. We didn't have a good sense of regard for the opinion of the wise. We didn't have a good sense of safety for ourselves. Maybe we've injured ourselves in the past. We've done stupid things, both in interpersonal relationships, maybe even physically. What about that? Shall we dwell with a heavy sense of guilt over that? No, that would be unwise. Why would that be unwise? Because it's infliction of pain about something you can't do anything about. The past is gone. So you must learn not to dwell with heavy remorse on the past. You just learn the lesson for the present and the future. So this personal sense of concern for your own well-being and the well-being of others and the opinion of the wise is to do with the present and the future. And it is important that we understand not to inflict pain on ourselves over the past, which cannot be changed. So that's how to view this. It's a very uplifting, important, and you will feel, because you have concern for the wise, for concern for people's opinion about your skills and capacities, and you're seeking to improve yourself and your own well-being and happiness, these are things that uplift you and don't burden you with senseless guilt over things done in the past. Okay, so let's go on.
Next question from the live stream is from Suds in Burnaby, British Columbia, Canada. When practicing breath meditation, there is a point that occurs usually where the breath becomes so subtle it's hard to notice. I can feel small vibrations throughout the body. Trying to find the breath too much makes the mind agitated. In this situation, what should I focus the mind on?
Well, the fact that your breath is getting very subtle is a very good sign. That is the nature of, that's more or less the only objective physical sign that you can have that tells you you're actually on the right track with breath meditation. And it's inseparable from that. Notice, so with other types of meditation, the topic that you're focused on, as your concentration gets greater, the object of your meditation becomes more vivid and clear. But with breath meditation, the better your concentration, the more the breath fades out. So it diminishes in its clarity. As your clarity increases, respirations per minute and the need for the breath becomes more and more subtle, so it recedes. It's the opposite of most of the other types of meditation. We have other meditations like visualizing colors or the elements of fire and water and air and earth. These things, when we focus on them, they become more and more vivid, more and more clear. The breath becomes more and more subtle. And this is why it's such a marvelous thing to meditate on. And not to be concerned that it's, subtle, and not to disturb that by becoming, agitated because, you're losing the experience of it. Agitation, of course, will just reduce your capacity. So the thing is just to remain calm. And how you learn these things is by doing it a lot. People have these experiences of like succeeding somewhat in their meditation, and then that very success makes them excited and they lose it, etc. And they ask, how do you overcome this? By doing it a lot. It's kind of like you learn to ride a bicycle the first time when you're a kid, and you manage to find the balance point, the magic balance point on a bicycle, and then because you're excited, you lose it. How do you get past that? you ride a bicycle a lot, and then eventually you don't lose it because you just take it for granted. You have, when you're learning how to ride it, you lose your balance and fail a bunch of times, and then eventually you don't. This is the way of all things, is that you get better and better by doing it a lot, and then you also get over the fact that occasionally you fail, etc. But that's the secret of this. Yeah. Next.
Next question from the live stream is from Raphael in France. Dear Ajahn Sona, I find that I can be judgmental, which comes from being harshly critical of myself. My attempts at grieving the causes of this have not freed me from it. Do you have any suggestions on how to work towards letting go of this problematic self-conception and finally getting over myself?
Well, it's not about getting over yourself. It's you're unwisely attending to your faults. It doesn't mean that you don't attend to your faults, but you attend wisely to your faults. So how do you know the difference between attending wisely to your faults or attending unwisely to your faults? It is that unwise attention to your faults is accompanied by ill will. You're harsh with yourself. You inflict a negative feeling. So this ill will is always accompanied by unpleasant feeling. All anger, all aversion, hatred, etc., is always accompanied by a very unpleasant feeling. The Buddha describes it in a simile as illness, in the same way that the flu doesn't feel good. You feel sickness through the body. So that emotion of aversion always has a corresponding emotional tone, which is negative, a sickness. And to get past that is like recovering from an illness. You feel so much better. Now, this is the way many people are taught this, that they must be harsh on themselves they must criticize their failings, etc. That somehow that's the only way to get over it or whatever. And they also apply that to others. They're harsh, they hate people, they're angry with people, and they know of no other way to be. If you tell them not to be that way, they think, well, what do you want me to just have no feelings at all? No. We want you to have positive feelings. So a skillful mother is going to deal with a baby, and that baby is going to make a mess of things. They're not toilet trained. They burp up their food, etc. They smear food all over their face. On and on and on it goes. Now, should the mother be angry at the baby? No. Well, how are you going to teach a baby to be better if you don't get angry at them? Well, you do it out of loving kindness. You don't do it out of anger. And a loving kindness is accompanied by patience and humor, and playfulness, goodwill. And the child is teachable, can learn these things. Of course, people do learn when they're treated with hostility and anger as well. They fear that. And people can teach themselves to be better by getting angry at themselves, etc. But it's just a poor way of teaching yourself. There are better ways. So you want to explore this better way of teaching myself. I'm still interested in teaching myself, improving, getting better, but I'm introducing a new kind of fuel for the engine. Instead of a type of fuel, that is anger, that tends to burn out the engine, causes actually all kinds of physical side effects. Lots of evidence that both toxic types of relationships, both people in a toxic relationship, both have ill effects on their health. And if you only have a one-way toxic relationship with yourself, by the way, it's interesting when you talk about your attitude to yourself. Are you talking about two people or are you talking about one? Who's mad at who there? There's only one of you. You're mad at yourself. Like, there must be a self that is mad and then a self that's not mad and is being shouted at. It's as if two people are in the same body. No, there's only one of you, and you take turns. You're playing ping pong with yourself. You're flying around the table. There's only one of you. So you change the fuel, and the fuel is accompanied by goodwill, playfulness, creativity, and a concern for your own well-being and happiness. And that will get a lot of things done. In fact, that's the optimal. Amazing things are accomplished by curiosity, playfulness, interest. They all love. Amazing things get done, and it doesn't injure the system. In fact, it ensures that the health is maintained. Emotional health and physical health is optimized by this positive way of looking at faults, the wise way of looking at faults. So this is very important advice. Most people can benefit from that advice. Yeah.
Ajahn, our next question is from Anonymous in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States. 2 questions. First, if famous devas or spiritual entities, for example, Saka or Indra, reveal themselves to you in your practice and begin influencing you in your day-to-day life, can a Buddhist work with those entities? What is the proper approach? Second, do you think that the devas have appeared in other religions in different cultures with different names? For example, Prithvi and Gaia.
Yeah, if you read these suttas, the historical suttas, there are what we call devas, beings from sort of another level of dimension, are interplaying with in the human realm as well, and some of them are influencing people, and sometimes people are influencing the devas. So what you want to be is highly aware that you are responsible for your intentional actions, your thought, your speech, and your action. And of course, in this very realm, all kinds of people, not devas, are trying to influence you. Every time you read an article in a newspaper, there may be an agenda in the article. They're trying to persuade you. So political parties are trying to persuade you. Advertisers are trying to persuade you. Your friends are trying to persuade you. Your enemies are trying to persuade you. Children are trying to persuade you. They're trying to persuade you to give them another cookie, etc. You got to decide whether it's good for them and good for you, you know. So although voices of persuasion are everywhere, you need to take responsibility for your responses to these things. And there is no getting off the hook from it. You see terrible things are done by people who are persuaded. So in the wars, people are told to do all kinds of dreadful things, murder others and so forth, and they claim they're just following orders, but they live with the results. They realize in the end, you did it, not anybody else. You listened, not anybody else. You did it. And you can regret it greatly. So this is the same relationship to any kind of deities. Now, are these this cosmological level, this other kind of invisible spirit being is noted in other cultures. Are they the same ones or different? Maybe they're the same ones under different names. So it's quite often you see this in religious kind of debates and conversations, why somebody believes in Jesus or the Judeo-Christian God, but they don't believe in Thor or Olympus, or they don't believe in the gods of the Greeks. Why do you believe this one? And but maybe they're all similar types of beings that just have different names. So you see, actually, in the time of the Buddha, deities or devas or angelic kinds of beings were known before in older cosmologies, and the Buddha recognizes them, and they change their attitudes. These deities, these devas, change their attitudes. They convert to a different attitude, influenced, actually, say, by the Buddha. So they are also subject to influence. At the bottom line is you're responsible for your actions, and so you need to take great care to educate yourself on what is moral and what is not. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Next question is from the live stream from Christian in France. Dear Ajahn, is there a part of consciousness outside of us? I mean, something we connect to when we wake up after sleeping and allows us to use consciously our senses.
Well, consciousness, of course, is a great topic these days. You can find many, many discussions. Especially if there's a whole school of materialists that don't think consciousness is anything other than the function of the brain. It's a chemical thing, and the consciousness is some sort of epiphenomenon, some sort of side effect of brain function. And others hold that consciousness is a distinct thing. Now, from a Buddhist point of view, consciousness is not a thing, it's a process. It has a relationship to the physical, that is the body. Consciousness and the body are related, but not identical. So consciousness is something of an independent process that is in interaction with the physical, the body. So this is a conundrum that has persisted since people started thinking at all. Now, whether it's something that you connect to, no, you are not connecting. It's either your consciousness or it's not your consciousness. It's not something you connect to. So this is how people give up their moral responsibility, is that as if an external voice or an external consciousness is making decisions for you. No, your consciousness, that is what you're responsible for, is making decisions. And if something comes in and changes your consciousness without your consent or anything like that, you're not responsible for it. This is a fundamental assertion by the Buddha, is like, no one purifies another. No outside person can relieve you of your responsibilities or inflict sins upon you either. You'll see this in Christianity, where they're removing somebody's sins. All kinds of people are saying, God made me do something. Some spirit made me do something. Well, if they made you do it, then it wasn't you that did it. When you make decisions, you make the decision, and if it's somebody else, what has it got to do with you? So this is the Buddhist advocacy, is that you are making decisions and you're responsible for those decisions, and nobody else can sort of click the button in your consciousness that makes the decision. Otherwise, they're responsible for it. You see this in courts of law, where a group is part of a crime. They ask whether the person was influenced or not. If they're influenced, they usually have a lesser sentence. The person who influenced them has a greater sentence, but none of them are off the hook. although you were persuaded and influenced by another person, you decided to go along with it, etc. So we distinguish in law that separate consciousness interact with each other, but they are separate consciousnesses. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Theodore in Fargo, North Dakota, United States. Dear Longpor, Ajahn Brahm teaches that free will is an illusion in that reality is just playing out of cause and effect. Is this accurate?
I don't know, but I'm not sure that he says that free will is an illusion. What the Buddha is saying is that the will, your decision-making process, is conditioned, but not necessarily determined. So Ajahn Brahm might not be saying that you are strictly and completely determined by prior causes, but that certainly you are conditioned. And this is why the Buddha has this famous teaching, I mean, it's famous amongst Buddhists at least, dependent origination, that the processes of the mind have a lawful structure to them. If you put in this cause, then you will not get a contrary result. So let me put it this way. If you plant a cherry seed, you won't get an apple tree. By the way, you might not get a cherry tree. Like sometimes the seed doesn't develop because of poor soil, lack of watering, or there's defect in the seed. So you may not get a cherry tree, but you definitely won't get an apple tree. So if you put in good intentions, positive intentions, you won't get unwanted negative results. So in Thailand, there's a very simple kind of phrase that they have: do good, get good. Do bad, get bad. Negative types of intentional actions have negative results. Positive intentional actions have positive results for the one who develops them. So there is a law, and it's kind of like the law of seeds. The cause and effect are in line with these biological laws. And there are psychological laws. If you have negative emotions towards yourself, you're going to have unwanted results. You're going to give yourself headaches and stomach aches and all of these kind of things. And if you have the opposite, you have this kind of sunny, optimistic, loving kind of personality, many of those psychosomatic types of things go away. So there you see. So this is the nature of it. We want to definitely assert, though, and this is what the Buddha does. And by the way, I just wrote a book not too long ago, which I'm going to show, and it's called What Comes Before Mindfulness? What Comes Before Mindfulness? Effective efforts, how to garden your inner life. Effective efforts. So what the Buddha is saying there is that monks and lay people, you can make effort. If you could not make effort, I would not say make effort. But because you can make effort, therefore, O monks and lay people, I say, make effort. Now, it wouldn't make much sense to say that if everything was strictly predetermined. And why make effort if everything is simply chaotic and has no cause and effect in it? So what we're saying is things are conditioned, but not rigidly determined. And so that debate has gone on since the time of the 5th century BC in different cultures, especially the Greek culture, right up to the present. Are we rigidly predetermined, or do we have free will? Those are two drastically different ideas. The Buddha is saying neither really. What we have is we can insert causes which will have predictable types of results. Okay, so let's go on to the next philosophical question here.
Ajahn, our next question from the live stream is from Jay in Florida, United States. I am a gay woman, and members of my family are unaware of this aspect of my identity. I am not in a relationship, live in another country, and I fear that if I were to reveal this truth, they would likely break the relationship with me and cause unnecessary suffering, particularly for my elderly parent, who may struggle to understand. Would withholding this information constitute a lie and a violation of the precepts? If one lies to conceal something in order to prevent others from experiencing unnecessary suffering, is that also considered breaking the precepts?
The Buddha is very clear about what takes place, and it's that what you say should be true and beneficial. If it is not beneficial, the Buddha says, if it is not beneficial, I don't say it. It may be, though, unpleasant to hear. It may be pleasant to hear or unpleasant. If it's true, beneficial, and whether it's pleasant or unpleasant to hear, I say it. If it's true, not beneficial, and pleasant or unpleasant to say, I don't say it. Now, so what you're going to decide is this a benefit to my parent? Is it a benefit to myself to tell them this? They're from a different belief system where that idea, you're what is it, lesbian? Yes, is bad, unacceptable or something. Like there's lots of religious ideas around that. If you think that, what's the benefit of disclosing this to them? They don't accept it. They may even develop unwholesome reactions to this. Is this beneficial? But the Buddha says, I never lie. I don't lie about these things. But I don't always blurt out the truth. It's not, you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind. You need to be careful and considerate that, and the question is it beneficial or not? But not just that it's true, but it's beneficial. But on the other hand, if you get in a corner where they're questioning you and so forth, you can't just say, deny it, lie about it. You say, no, I'm not willing to lie, even though somebody may be hurt by this. I'm not willing to lie, but I will tell the truth if I feel that the conditions are right for benefit. So that's how to sort these things out.
Next question is from Drew in West Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Are encounters with certain animals auspicious, symbolic, and meaningful? Or is it just a coincidence when certain animals cross your path?
Well, life is kind of like waking life can benefit to some degree by interpretation, something like we would of a dream. Why are things happening to us? One of the reasons is that when we see a certain animal, perhaps, or a certain person, or we keep seeing a sign, or we keep coming across the same book here and there, all kinds of weird things. These are, Jungian psychology calls this synchronicity, strange coincidences that are meaningful. This, we would say, and from a Buddhist point of view, is because consciousness is structured, is conditioned. And so, the two people are in a room, and one person sees a vase on a shelf that is meaningful to them. The other person doesn't even notice that there's a vase on the shelf. The other person sees that there's some nice flowers outside the window. So you notice that there isn't really objectively a room. There is only the experience of a room. And the experience of the room is dependent on, do you have working senses? Like, can you see? Are you blind or can you see? Are you deaf or can you hear, etc.? You have sight, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and then you have thought capacity. These are all quite structured. So the actual physical organism, the eyeball itself and the connections, etc., are one thing. And then there's consciousness is shaped by previous knowledge. So you have perceptions, memories that are hacked. Perception, by the way, is a type of memory. When you hold up a cup for a child, the child doesn't see a cup. The child, well, very, very young, like a baby, all they see is a shape. They learn that it's a cup. And then once they learn that's a cup, then they see a cup. And that is what we call perception. But that takes place so fast that we don't realize that we're remembering something rather than just seeing it. We're not just seeing a cup. We're actually remembering that's a cup. And so you see how we're incredibly conditioned. Our consciousness is incredibly conditioned. So when you come across an animal and you pay attention to it and you name it and it has some sort of meaning to you, this is part of the structure of consciousness. So each individual is walking through life having a unique and conditioned experience of the world. And what this world outside you is ultimately not knowable by any other means. But this is, by the way, this is not strange that I'm saying this. In Western philosophy, this is from the time of Immanuel Kant, this is what he is saying as well, that we can't actually get perfectly objective knowledge about the external world. It's always mediated by our sensory experience and our thought processes. So we can actually not ever know the absolute reality about the external world. We can only know what we experience. And so that's the phenomenal world that we experience. And Buddhism is along those lines as well. Everything is quite filtered, and what is really out there we do not know, but all we know is the experience we have, and it's deeply shaped and conditioned by structured consciousness. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Alec. Hi, Bhante. I have a simple question. Do the 3 types of tanha correspond to the 3 types of dukkha?
Okay, for our listening audience, I always like to translate any kind of Pali language or any secondary language. It's kind of rude to flinging words around that people don't understand. So it's important to know this. In my early days as a musician, I went to a lot of operas, and there was always a debate: should an opera be in its original language when the audience doesn't speak Italian? Should the audience have to listen to it sung in Italian, or should we sing it in English, or should there be subtitles? When you don't have words to a song, it doesn't matter. An instrumental thing is a universal language. Instrumental music, universal language. But once the words come along, should you translate them or not? In the case of Pali, this is what the Buddha himself is saying, that please, monks, use the vernacular, the language that people speak in order to communicate with them, and don't make a point of using any kind of language that is sort of sacred or separate from the language that's in use. So, as Alec talked about 3 types of tanha, T-A-N-H-A. These are, we would translate as thirsts. So there is kama tanha, which is K-A-M-A, kama, which means sensory thirst, sensual thirst, thirst for sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches and ideas even. And then there's bhava tanha, bhava, B-H-A-V-A. That is thirst for being, for existence. It could be also thirst for becoming, like manifesting yourself into the future. And then there's vibhava tanha, V-I on the front of bhava, means to remove, or the thirst for non-existence. Now you notice this this occurs in humans. People want to annihilate themselves in some ways. Now, the ultimate thirst for annihilation is perhaps suicide. One wants not to exist. By the way, it's an unfortunate, from a Buddhist point of view, it's an unfortunate choice because you can't not exist. There's only one thing you can ever do, that is to exist. And I want to make a little logic point here. You're not going to ever feel relieved of your problems by not existing. You either exist or you don't, and you never don't exist. There's only one option. There's a pseudo option. You think that you could sort of rest in peace by not existing. No, you only exist. There is no other. There is no choice. There's only existence. And this is not a mystical thing or belief in karma and rebirth or any religious idea at all. It's just pure logic. To speak of non-existence, a person not existing is just meaningless, empty language. There is only, the only possibility is that one exists. Now, people attempt to annihilate or have the thirst to annihilate by just staying asleep for a long time. If you're depressed, you don't like being awake, so you want to be asleep. And the unfortunate part of that is that you all you ever experience is basically your waking life, because you don't get to be asleep and experience it at the same time. You're all you have is conscious experience. People take drugs to reduce their experience of existence. So heavy alcohol use, which is inclined to produce unconsciousness. So some people drink to become unconscious, right? Not to taste the wine or anything like this. They take drugs to annihilate their consciousness as well. So the purpose is not to, search for God through psychedelic drugs or have an artistic experience or a philosophical revelation by using a drug to distort consciousness. But in the case of this vibhava tanha, is to annihilate parts of the consciousness that it cause you pain. It's pain relief. So that's a form of dukkha, yeah. So dukkha, again, is suffering, unsatisfactory. So you can't get out of the situation of suffering by vibhava tanha, thirst for annihilation. You can't get out of it for the thirst for existence either. So other people go about trying to exist more. They really want to exist. They are deeply in love with life and existence. And they fear death. They don't want anything interrupting it. And also they will seek out experiences to enhance the experience of existence as well, adventure and so forth. Does this overcome suffering? No, because the problem is you can't maintain good experiences all the time. Life itself can be deeply compromised by significant illness or a loss of your own freedoms. So in a war or something like that, people come in and just take everything you have and they put you in prison or worse, into some sort of indoctrination camp or a work camp, and you have no freedoms, and then suddenly your celebration of life is compromised. And the last of these thirsts is kama tanha. It should not be Kama is sensual, not karma, or Kamma. So kama, which is the Pali pronunciation of the Sanskrit word karma, is basically intentional moral action. Kama is sensual thirst. And so lots of people do that. Animals do that too. They enjoy tastes and so forth. They respond strongly to this. Even a child responds to sight, pleasant sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches, and they want more of it. This is where you'll see this in a lot of philosophical traditions. They begin to realize the shortcomings of living only for sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches, or even ideas. You can't manage and control them. You can't always get what you want. And so the wiser type person, the thinking person, is looking for a solution to this. Is it just to abstain from indulging in these sensory experiences? Most people indulge. They seek happiness in these sensory experiences. And then you have your philosophical traditions, your monastic traditions, both Catholic and, the various types of monastic traditions are very wary of sensual kind of indulgence as happiness. So they obviously see that there is dukkha or problems with it. So yes, the three types of tanhas, thirsts, are connected to this have unsatisfactory structures to them. Okay, well, let's go on to the question.
Next question is from the live stream from Denise in Panama. Dear Ajahn, you spoke about the beautiful cosmology series on your channel last week. I watched it twice and even bought Ajahn Punadhammo's amazing book. I would like to ask if the Buddha said anything about astrology. I know he did not encourage metaphysical studies, but isn't the belief in past and future lives metaphysical?
Past and future lives are not beliefs. You don't just believe you had that you were alive yesterday, don't you? That's not a belief. That's that you you were alive yesterday. So past and future are not beliefs. They're sometimes knowledge of events that have occurred, and then predictions about reasonable predictions about what'll occur in the future. So that's something that people like the Buddha apparently had memories of past lives, and others as well. They don't regard them as beliefs. They regard them as of direct knowledge through their memory, just like they have memories of what happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc. Now, astrology is a totally different area. The Buddha does not speak about astrology except to set it aside as that it's very important that you actually commit to that your life is shaped by your decisions, your moral decisions, and you're receiving the results of previous moral actions, and you will in the future get results of moral actions, moral thought, moral speech, moral actions, and that you don't give up responsibility to other types of models. And astrology is such a model where you're born at in a certain configuration of the stars, etc., and that is creating your fate. The Buddha is saying, what do the stars have to do with it? You make decisions. What have the stars to do with this? Or the shape of on the palm of your hand. So monks are actually forbidden from doing any of these types of knowledges, palm reading, doing horoscopes, etc. These are called low types of arts and crafts, vulgar arts and crafts, which are not valid. And monks should not do that. You'll see occasionally monks in Asia, reading palms and doing these kind of things. That is forbidden by the rules of conduct for monks. And so I would set that aside as not as unconducive and not true knowledge. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Jean from SG. Ajahn, some people are unable to believe in karma and or rebirth. Is it because they have some kind of, quote, karmic blockage, unquote? Is there anything that he or a loved one can do to lift such a blockage?
No, I mean, it's the attitude of the scientific world. It's not a justified attitude because science does not say that such things cannot and do not exist. That is rebirth and karma. Science has limitations. As soon as you get into complex areas, even human health, the effects of lettuce on your liver and so forth, it becomes so complex that we can only make certain kind of guesses. And science, if you look at the history of science, you'll see that what it is a series of attempts to self-correct, that it fully admits that it has been wrong in many areas, physics, chemistry, biology, has sociology, science. So there are types of sciences which are called soft sciences. Psychology and sociology are soft sciences. Physics is called a hard science. Not that it's difficult, although it apparently is, but it's something you can make sort of strong predictions with that can be, produce the same result again and again. But again, it's precarious. This is what science is a method that an attempt to understand reality through a methodical purpose of theory and an empirical evidence and reproductions. But unfortunately, it can only go so far just because of the complexity of things. As soon as it gets out of pure physics, even on the most basic level, it becomes almost infinitely infinite possibilities that are very hard to make predictions about. So you're in a world, though, where science is sometimes said it's not scientific, and therefore, it's wrong. But that's naive. That is not the philosophy of science. That's not an accurate assessment of what science is. Science is just a method which attempts to establish certain things. People who say science disproves the idea of rebirth and karma are saying because the consciousness does not exist apart from the brain, therefore when the brain ceases, consciousness ceases, and therefore it cannot be the case that consciousness migrates from one body to another. That's an assumption, again, and it's not by any means established. And this idea of is consciousness just brain function, is brain function no other than consciousness, etc., is still just an open debate. But if a person naively has accepted that, and that's the scientific view, it must be that way, that's why they're going to be difficult to convince. They also might be from a religious tradition which rejects the idea of a previous life. Christianity, somewhere along the line, had councils where they had to decide, because the idea of a previous life was floating around in the ancient world. And they had to decide, do we believe in that? Is that a Christian belief? So they had a bunch of people come together. What their qualifications were, who knows? But they had to vote on it. And apparently, I think some of the councils, there were votes in favor of previous existence, but the majority won the vote. And so it's considered heretical. But I did read a statistic that, from a Catholic Orthodox point of view, there's no previous life, but there is a next life. And that one goes on forever. I don't know. But there was kind of an assessment that 30% of Catholics believe that there was a previous life. A lot of people have intuitions about this. They feel they've been here before. They feel that they're re-experiencing things. Deja vu, already seen. I've been here before. This is familiar to me, etc. So this is what you're dealing with: scientific ideas, pseudo-scientific ideas that it can't be, religious ideas that reject the idea of previous lives, but strangely hold that you are born again the next time, but not the previous time, etc. So that's what I have to say about that. So we will wrap up today, and we will see you next week. We are in the midst of a live retreat going on, and we are videoing and recording that live retreat, which will be also available for your edification and interest. The name of this retreat is called Keeping the Big Picture in Mind. So I will leave that as an appetizer, a dangling curiosity thing to see. And if you want to find out what all that means, you will watch the series when it is fully edited and put out. We do this, which is unedited live stream. But when I do formal retreats, we take time and edit it so that it is presented in as an immaculate form as we can possibly make it for your edification. Okay, so long for now.